Hello, positively joyful to behold your shimmering broadcasting interest out there. Anyway, it's a way of saying welcome. But if you're only joining us, and thank you for staying with us if you've been here for a little while. We greet you across the planet this morning. We have James McAreavey with us from the Newry Maritime Association and Dominic Bradley here as well, because the two men have been on a mission, and an interesting mission it has been. James.
Good morning, Rowan, and thanks for the invite to come over. Myself and Dominic had a conversation several months ago about the way ahead for the Maritime Association, and Dominic said that he had noticed there was funding available, a funding opportunity available from the Department of Foreign Affairs in Dublin through their reconciliation fund.
That's their place in Dublin there.
That's the department office,
so
yeah.
Reconciliation, that immediately excited your interest, obviously.
Yeah, because the whole ethos of our group is about cross-community activity, and obviously there was no demarcation lines with the seamen and the dockers. You know, everybody worked together. And
the old shared poverty.
And unfortunately, many died together, Rowan, as you know. But anyhow, Dominic made arrangements to go down to the office to him, and you know, you talk about going the extra mile. We sat for 4 nights: Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. He gave up his weekend, and we spent a minimum of 2 hours per night, 9 hours in total for both of us.
Doing the application?
To fill in a voluminous form.
I imagine it, yeah.
It was never ending.
Oh, calculated to put you off, I dare say.
Well, funny enough, we both came to that conclusion, that the idea was you get fed up halfway through it.
Yeah.
But anyway, perseverance, and we submitted the application, and lo and behold, we were very fortunate to attract an award of €4,000.
So what did the application purport to do? What did it relate to?
Well, in 2016, Rowan, to be specific, on the 3rd of November 2016, it will be the centenary of the sinking of the Connemara and the Retriever, 2 ships at the mouth of Carlingford Lough. And I'm sure in your time diving, you've probably been on both wrecks.
I've been on both of them.
Yeah.
They're nothing more now. The condensers used to be there. For a long time you could swim around them and dive on very shallow water. Even at low tide you could have looked out of the dive boat and seen them there. But now they're a little more, because they were blown by naval divers at one stage.
That's right.
Because they were a hazard to navigation, I rather think. But and the 2 boats, the Connemara was on her way out with passengers and cattle to England, and the Retriever's on the way in again with coal. And the weather, they just wow, and that was the end of it, you know. So well done, you got it for that, and you're going to have a series of events.
We would envisage, Rowan, that we will have we'll have events right around the loch from Kilkeel to the Cooley Peninsula.
Yeah.
And involving both sides of the community.
Oh yeah.
Now Sean has put up a slide here so that people at home that wouldn't be familiar. You have the entrance to Carlingford Lough coming in from the Irish Sea. And of course the Heli Hunter buoy is the cardinal marker for the Newry navigation. And as you say, the Connemara had
just here, aren't they?
Yeah.
Right there.
She had just left our berth at Greenore for the night run to Holyhead at 8 o'clock, and the Retriever was coming in, having left Garston at 4 o'clock the previous morning. So Captain O'Neill had been at sea for 16 hours in horrendous weather, and he was making his way into the channel. It was wartime. The lighthouse had been extinguished, dim lights on the ships themselves, and as you say, with the combination of wind and tide, the Retriever was blown to our port side and hit the Connemara midships.
You see, on that scene there, if you can imagine a wind coming across the Irish Sea, all the span of the Irish Sea, right the whole way across, and the outgoing tide, that when you got that movement, that confluence of wind and tide, it's recommended in the Loch Pilot, the Irish pilot book, that never would you do that, would you go to sea in those conditions. But it was more it wasn't so much, the Connemara would have been well able to have handled the tide if there hadn't been the collision. That was it. Was one of them without lights, James? Was one of them without lights?
No, both of them had dimmed lights.
Dimmed lights, yeah.
But you've got to remember too, Rowan, that in defence of Captain O'Neill, the master of the Retriever, now he was held to be at fault.
Yeah.
But if you can just imagine what that man and his crew had gone through, coming across from Garston on a little ship with an open bridge, and all he was thinking about was the relative safety of Carlingford Loch.
I can understand that, because exactly as you say, they're exhausted, they're cold, they're exposed, they're happy to get home, they're tired. It's very difficult to point a finger at anyone in that situation. It's almost an act of a combination of the work of the work of God and
yet, no, on the other hand, Rowan, you've got to remember that the Connemara was owned by a railway company,
Northwest of
London and Northwest Railway Company, and all those railway companies were sticklers for the schedule.
Yeah,
everything had to be right. Had to be running on time, and local people said it was the worst night in 70 years. Now, Captain O'Neill and the Retriever had no option. They were out on it. Yeah. But the Connemara was berthed in Greenore.
And you know, the Connemara coming out, it just fascinates me, because could the skipper not have kept a distance between himself and the Retriever, and therefore the Retriever wouldn't have managed to hit her? You know, they weren't cold, they weren't exposed. The Connemara folk, they were relatively warm, content, they were in the beginning of their journey. You know, the duty of better care may well have rested with them. Yeah. And that's not really something came out in the inquiry.
What did the Admiralty report on it say?
Well, they held that the captain of the Retriever shouldn't have come into the channel, and there's no passing in the channel.
Right.
Which that's a kind of a crazy thing, and so benefit of hindsight and all of that, James.
Yeah.
But I mean, the man had to come in.
He had to come in.
He could have. He had his responsibility to his ship and his personnel.
Correct.
A lot could have perished, you know.
That's right.
Yeah.
They did anyway.
Yeah, they did.
It was the worst. It was the worst tragedy of the time. 93 people died. James Boyle, of course, from Warren Point, survived. But it was a horrendous experience.
Dreadful, the story of them being washed up on the beach and been taken into the sheds of Greencastle. And
some of the bodies were so badly dismembered that they couldn't even give a sexual gender
what
for
they
them.
were. Yeah,
you know.
Dominic, why are you involved?
Well, I'm a member of the association. My family have quite an extensive maritime history. Wow. My grandfather, James McCune, was a merchant seaman from Newry here. Spent all of his working life almost as a merchant seaman, and sadly he lost his life on the sea. He was on a ship called the Teasel, which was sailing out of Belfast on the way to Manchester with cargo of iron bars, and as they were passing just north of our Head in the Isle of Man, they met with some very bad weather, a storm. The cargo on the ship moved, which caused it to list. It then began to take on water and eventually sunk. My grandfather and another seaman, a Polish seaman, they managed to get onto a life raft. Yeah. But unfortunately, because of the severity of the weather, they perished.
They perished in the life raft.
That's my understanding.
And they were picked up. We have the next shot, Sean. They were picked up by Newry people.
That's right. They were picked up by
here?
Captain O'Hanlon.
That's him on the left.
That's him on the left. Yeah. And,
see anything to Tommy O'Hanlon?
Father.
Father of Tommy from the Fathom Line.
Yeah.
Sure, Tommy and his mummy, they spent their lives watching down at the tanks, the Daddy going to sea and Daddy coming back from sea.
That's right. Well, that was a picture Rowan actually taken at Buckingham Palace, 1941, and he's accompanied by Barney Murphy, who was... I'll explain to you who Barney Murphy was. Barney Murphy was the father of Peter Murphy, ship's engineer in Bridge Street, who was married to Dimpna Hollywood from Fathom, who was the mother of Jared, Murphy, Shakespearean actor.
Oh, my God.
Right,
yeah.
Yeah.
But you told that story in a typically and wonderfully Newry way. This one. Your ones and my ones, and she was related there.
Yeah.
Well, Ron, I was saying there, Captain Hollywood, the ship that he was on, picked up the remains of my grandfather and the Polish sailor.
This man here?
Yes, and took them to Donaghadee in County Down, where the bodies were laid out in the back room of the public house.
Yeah.
An inquest was carried out and a report made then. And James has got me the Admiralty report on the sinking of the Teasel. And as well as that, I've a copy of Dive magazine. You would know it.
Oh, aye, absolutely. The BSEC magazine.
Yes,
yep.
And there's an article in it about a dive that took place on the Teasel.
On the Teasel, yeah.
And rather poignantly, at the beginning of the article, the writer talks about the eeriness of visiting a ship, of diving to a ship and walking on a ship on which people lost their lives.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a picture in the magazine of the wheel of the Teasel, which is still in place on the vessel. Mm-hmm. So it was, you know, I never met my grandfather. I wasn't born in 1948, but it was a strange feeling looking at the pictures, reading through the article on him.
Yeah.
James McKeown, I think he had survived several other near misses at sea, and around the town here in Newry, because of that, he was given the nickname Shipwreck by other seamen because of the number of near misses. He's buried with my grandmother up at St Mary's Church there, not far from the church itself.
That's wonderful. Isn't it incredible, James? We're a maritime town, a maritime people, but until you came along with your association, no one seemed to care.
Well, that's the sad thing, Rowan. A lot of it, as you know, from and you would know more than most through your links with the sea and diving, etc. A lot of it has unfortunately been airbrushed, but there is a lot of work going on with various groups at the minute. And like a farmer sowing a crop, sometimes there's a lot of preparation and you don't see a lot of tangible results. But at the minute now, with the public realm scheme, I think that's going to be fantastic. The DSD and the council are doing a great job. If you look right along the length of the canal, from the Linen Hall Gate, opened last year, the Navy, the public realm scheme, the rejuvenation of Fisher Park, work has started now on the Middle Bank on this Great Eastern Greenway. We're going to have a walk and a cycleway all the way through, linking up with Louth. Dominic has been involved in that as well.
We're almost a born-again people.
Well, I think, Rowan, at long last, we're beginning to get an embryonic maritime brand in Newry. As you say, we're a maritime town. I don't say a city, we're a town. But we're a maritime town. We have something that other towns would give their right arm to have.
Absolutely.
This is what makes us different from Banbridge, Armagh, Cookstown.
But I almost think you, I don't know if you discovered this, I think the council were waiting for you, in the sense that no one within council was going to get up and do anything, because the heads were in the sand for all sorts of reasons. And the main thing that happens if you've got your head in the sand is you get a kick in the ass. But in the sense of you came along, you were the right man, the right place, the right time, this Newry Maritime Association, the right thing for the development of the infrastructure through Newry and the memorabilia that you're putting in place.
One of the things I think which is coming out of the work that James and the Maritime Association is doing is not just the commemoration of the historical events, you know, matching dates, but the human stories that lie behind them.
Oh, definitely.
And not only that, but the living links that there still are.
That's right.
For example, we had the erection of the historical plaques for Raymond Kelly and Max Blaney, and their families were there. And I think the association, through that work in association with the Ulster Historical Circle, you know, it gave recognition to the two people in question.
Oh, absolutely.
But it also brought their families in and displayed to their families that there was a respect for these people.
It's also given me a sense of pride.
All of us.
When I look and I
yes,
see the Newry, when I see the esplanade that's been created along the canal, new trees, and even already there's blooms on the trees because the mildness of the weather. There's a blossoming starting, and they're only in the ground. But I look and I see Blaney and I see Kelly, and I think, my God, something, because the big thing is we have such a short span of time on this earth. It flies, it goes away. And if we ignore the opportunity to record that which we know and preserve it and make it safe, then it's a grave sin that we commit.
And then on the 26th, Saturday the 26th of April, Rowan, we're having the unveiling of the Newry Docker at the Albert Basin. Tony Stallard, an English artist from Essex, he's working on it at the moment. The DSD have put, I think, it's £60,000 of funding into it, and that'll be unveiled on the 26th of April. So it's another piece in the jigsaw. And it's people like Dominic that we need to keep pushing things forward. Not just for the Maritime Association, but for the voluntary sector in general, and for Newry in particular.
But you have him hooked because his family has him hooked. He's going nowhere else. He's going to be with you. And the big thing is that politicians, because of the huge pressures on you, you're not a hurler on the ditch. You have to be there in the midst of the blood and guts of politics. You can be distracted very, very easily, but you've got a family connection, and that makes the difference.
But I think the good thing about the Maritime Association is that there's full buy-in right across the political divide. All of the parties send representation to the commemorative events, and you know, there's no political jockeying for position, if you know what I mean. And I think people respect the work that's been done. They also respect the heritage, and in some cases, I think people from a political background have gone the extra mile in some cases, you know, to overcome what might have been reservations in the past.
We had great news this morning on the religious front. Michael Barry,
the Reverend Barry,
he's the new moderator of the Presbyterian Church in Ireland. No better man, because he's taken a very great interest in what you guys are doing.
I rang him last night to congratulate him, and I just heard it on the news at 10:30, and I thought, I don't know who else was in for the job, but in my book they got the best man.
Oh, he's a cracker. He's a great man.
He attended our function on Tuesday night last, when we did a rerun for the Good Relations Unit of Newry and Mourne Council for the presentation for the George Cross men. And Dominic was there, and we actually made a presentation to Michael for his support of our activities. Wonderful. He has turned up all over the place, and you know, a great supporter, an absolute gentleman, and I wish him all the best. As I know, all the people in Newry will be delighted, because he has spent the last 29 years in Sandy Street. And again, Rowan, son of a seaman.
Son of a seaman from a seaport, the
From
home
a
of Larne.
seaport in Carrickfergus.
Yeah, Carrickfergus is not Larne. Yeah, absolutely. But you see, the thing about Michael Barry, and I hope he'll be in with me this week. But what I like about Barry, he prioritises humanity over denomination.
Yeah.
That mightn't endear him to extreme Presbyterians, perhaps, but that's the Barry that I know.
Yeah.
Michael Barry values humanity.
I think he has a reach out philosophy. He wants to reach out
Very
to
much so.
all people and
No
connect
doubt.
with all people in the town. And I was just looking at some of the social media last night, and there were a huge number of messages of congratulations.
Yeah.
And
A
I would
groundswell
add my
of goodwill.
congratulations as
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
As I say, I would certainly add my congratulations as well. It's good to have an incumbent from Newry
Absolutely.
being elevated to that
Absolutely.
position. And previously, of course, we had John Dunlop.
that's right.
Yeah,
as
John, this part of the best
moderator,
work.
yeah,
Yeah.
who
That's a
had
wee while back.
close connections
Yeah.
with this.
Is John still
this
around?
area.
He is, yes. He's
Oh,
retired
he's
now.
still voicing his
Yeah,
views.
absolutely, absolutely. Tell me this, I see the Fonu there.
Yes.
What's the Irish for no surrender? Because all of these guys are at the moment, they're what's his name, Kittick? The
Kittick, yeah,
Grand
yes,
Master of
yes,
Belfast.
yeah.
He said Orange men shouldn't take the Irish language, that it's a plot. That you're a Trojan horse.
Yeah.
There's a dissident do da day do dee dee within you trying to get out. That's all to try and advance the Republican agenda. Well, did you ever hear the like of it in your life?
Well, I've heard it all before down through the years, but ironically, last Wednesday I was down at the Skenos Centre in East Belfast.
Yes, indeed. That means cross, I believe.
Yes.
That means cross. It's
probably Greek, I
It is
think,
Greek, yeah.
Visiting the project down there that's run by Linda Irvine.
A loyalist?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
her husband was a loyalist in the political party that he's part
Yes,
of.
her husband Brian was
Yeah.
leader of the PUP,
PUP.
and of course her brother-in-law was famous David Irvine.
David Irvine, yeah.
Who passed away sadly. And I was really impressed by the work that's going on there and the diversity of the people who are attending the classes there.
Yeah.
And I don't think Linda has any secret Republican agenda in East
in
Belfast.
fairness, the Orange Order, they backed off it very, very quickly, as did the First Minister.
The First Minister did as well.
He sort of said.
I think I have worked closely with people from a Protestant background who were fine Irish speakers, as knowledgeable.
Brian Faulkner himself was an Irish speaker. He had Brian Faulkner, he had Irish.
Is that right?
He had some
Yes.
of it. He was educated in Dublin,
In
you
Dublin,
see.
yeah,
And he would have
yeah,
picked up
yeah,
bits and pieces there.
Well, we've had people like Malcolm Scott, who was the Irish language officer here in Newry Mourne Council. And I know the Reverend Gary Hastings, who is a minister of the Church of Ireland, great Irish speaker as well. And I think, that those attitudes are gradually being broken down.
They are surely.
Mr. Chittick, I think, is probably stuck in the past
somewhere.
somewhere.
I think he's been fracked, and that's how he's come to the earth.
There's a tremendous history of Presbyterians being involved in the promotion of the Irish language. You had Robert Shipboy McAdam in Belfast, who rescued a huge number of important Irish manuscripts. Some of them from Art Bennett in South Armagh here.
McCooey.
You had the Reverend Nielsen, who was the author of one of the first Irish language grammars and lesson book here in the north as well. And of course you had Bedell's Bible, which was the first translation of the Bible into Irish. That all came from the Protestant tradition, And I think Linda Irwin was telling me that one of the things that awakened her interest in Irish was she was going through the 1911 census for the streets in East Belfast, and she was flabbergasted by the number of people who had Irish as their first language on the
Irish is the first language
on the census
for goodness
form.
sake.
And I think she began to think, well, this belongs to us, and this is part of our heritage and tradition, and let's enjoy it. Let's have a look at it, and let's repossess it.
James,
rightly
back to you, if we may. They were put up in the days before your society, I'm talking about the two appalling monuments to dockers down at the basin.
Oh.
Goodness gracious. Where did they come from, in God's name? They're dreadful.
Where did they go? And unfortunately, my good friend Jackie Patterson was mayor at the time, and Jackie's name's on them. But
I mean, what you're doing, the stuff that's coming out, is a credit to you. It's innovative, it's imaginative, it's thrilling. Well, it's artistic.
It's like everything else, Rowan. There's an old saying, a wee mouse can make a big hole in a bag.
He certainly can.
And you just keep chipping away.
Yeah.
And as I say, the threads start to knit together and become a tapestry.
Yeah.
But it's important to have people like Dominic, the councillors. Dominic quite rightly mentioned the groundswell of cross-party support, all shades of political opinion. That was reflected on the 10th of August last year,
down at the locks,
when we unveiled the monument. And we had Councillor McKee from Kilkeel,
that's right,
led Charlie Casey, John McArdle, Andy Moffat, Ford, to lay a wreath, and of course Jackie was there. So all shades of political opinion and none. And of course we have the enduring image of the DRD Minister Donny Kennedy playing the big drum with Camla Band.
That's right.
He said it was a lifelong ambition.
Well, I'm beginning to wonder now. What you tell me fills me with hope. And if we could get a train down where the railway track used to be, just across the road, and then we could bring, after an event at the locks, we could bring an event of the political spectrum into the train, and they would sit down in the train, they would send Haas home, and they would solve the whole blinking thing.
Well, you know, Dominic would be better placed than me to comment on these things, but I often think on my daily dealings with people, and I see how effectively they can work together. You know, and how well that they get on. When you leave those party labels aside, on all sides, they can work effectively, they can deliver a result. But then when we get entrenched in this political siege warfare in Stormont, it's just say no. Bradley said it, so say no. Robinson said it, so we say no.
I think
the intransigence
is there. But I think the politics, the wisdom of politics is in the control of a terribly unsatisfactory political dog, the weakest link in the whole political chain, the greatest extremist is wagging the agenda, and it shouldn't be happening. And you know, the fact that we do all the things you're talking about, and then we can't actually sit down and agree about flags.
It begs the question: why do we need someone to come from America to tell us how to solve our own situation?
The reality is we don't, because good people, you could agree flags in the morning with a unionist counterpart if the unionist wasn't looking over his shoulder to see what he could say safely and get away with.
Well, the talks are continuing at Stormont, and I suppose Dr. Haas was like a catalyst. He kick-started the process, and I don't think anybody realistically expected that within the short time span that everything was going to fall into place. Not
at all.
But the hopeful thing is that the talks are still continuing.
Yeah, well, that's good, because that bishop, the leader in waiting of the Catholic Church, Martin, the new Archbishop, he spoke yesterday, and he was talking about the failure of politics, but it needs to go ahead.
Well,
with the laughing
I think
stock
we have
of the world.
to remain positive, and you know, quite often we focus here on the more negative aspects of society, and a lot of the positive work that is going on goes unnoticed. But before we finish, Ron, could I just say that, you know, when I attend one of James's events, I'm seeing the fruits of months and months of hard work, hours spent in the library, researching through past editions of the local papers, contacting people and so on, and bringing all of that together into an event. And, you know, I think we have to give James and the Maritime Association credit for all of that hard work which they do, which serves all of the community, and as you say, highlights and makes us aware of our heritage.
Absolutely.
And encourages it to value it into the future.
Here, well done. Well done, James. Well done, Dominic.
Thanks very much.
We're going to play you some music. Sean.